right, man. So recently, me and my friend James Vest, who is also from St. Louis, we talked about the hockey scene in St. Louis, which included, we're talking about mainly the women's hockey scene, like, Lindenwood, Belleville, moving to Lindenwood. So you got two Lindenwood women's teams between the NCAA, ACHA. Then you had stuff like the new facilities that were completed right after the Blues won the cup, and there was a youth girls team called the St. Louis Cyclones that didn't have a place to practice before, a set place, and then they're practicing at the new facility. Then there was the new Chesterfield Lady Falcons at the other new facility called Maryville University Hockey Center. Yeah, we talked about the women's hockey scene there. The women's hockey scene is happened in St. Louis, especially new facilities and the cup, first ever cup win. So, but the hockey scene in New England, that's always been pretty happen, and it can only get more happen from here, I guess. And we're not just talking about just the Boston area, because you just have many teams in the Northeast, and you also have the new PWHPA regions, in which the PWHPA region, I guess, in the Northeast is not in Boston. It's actually in New Hampshire, which is where also I believe that was the very first PWHPA event that happened last year, which was in New Hampshire. I know you and Ray went to that, or I know Ray did, and you went, right? Yeah. So yeah, man, I don't know if they'll use that arena for it, but yeah, me and Ray kind of talked about the New Hampshire region. But I guess first things first, we can start talking about the NCAA before we go into the pro hockey. And I feel like the NCAA, there's just a lot of options to talk about. There's a lot of teams to talk about there. You got the Hockey East, and you also have the ECAC. So yeah, man, shoot, where do we start? I guess we can start with the Hockey East teams in Boston. So you have Northeastern, Boston College, and BU. And I always assumed Harvard was part of Hockey East, but it's actually part of the ECHE. So ECHAC. I'm always going to pronounce that wrong. It's ECAC, but for some reason I think there's an H in there. But anyway, Boston College, they were always a team that was pretty good. They had probably a rougher year this year because Megan Keller graduated. But it was not just that she graduated. You had Daryl Watts go to Wisconsin, and you had Katrin Lonergan transfer to Clarkson. So I didn't really have BC on my map just for those reasons, but you still had Caleb Barnes, and your friend Steven was telling me about a freshman who was tearing it up. That might have been Hannah Bilka. But have you been to many BC Eagles games, or do you know a lot about them besides, we know about the national team players, like who all went there, like Blake Bolden, Emily Falzer, Katie Bird. So yeah, man.
Carpenter,
Dana Trevino, Haley Skarupa, just all kinds.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you ever get a chance to get out to those Boston College games a lot? Or they're always on weekends, but
I went to a couple early in 2019 during Megan Keller's senior season and Callie Flanagan's senior season, 2019. I think they eventually lost out to Northeastern's, where they lost the Hockey East tournament. I think BC that year, they won the regular season Hockey East title, but then they ended up losing the actual tournament title to Northeastern at Providence College. So that kind of sucked. Like I said, I didn't go to BC, but I had this vested interest because a lot of the Olympians were on that team. I went to a couple games there. Other than that, no, I didn't really go to much BC games. Like you said, they were just kind of ravaged once they had a mass exile of all their upperclassmen, either who left to do the graduation or just wanted to transfer to better programs where they thought they would have a better opportunity to win the Frozen Four title. No, that's about it. But I did go back to the Conte Forum to watch a PWHPA game, where they had a limited supply of players. I think Brittany Ott was the most high-profile player there in October of 2019 last year. But the other players I didn't really recognize too much. They were either former college standouts who are just have regular 9-to-5 jobs, but they weren't people who were exactly noteworthy. No one that exactly stood out in my mind as a standout,
I would only think, I bet Carrie Atkinson was in that game because she stands out because she was a Lindenwood player, but she seems to play in the Boston area now. She played for the Worcester Blades and stuff like that. So I'm going to take a wild guess she was in that game. And I'm actually, this is starting to come back to me. This is starting to ring a bell. you go into this game. But yeah, I mean, the one BC Eagles game I was at was well, that was in the Frozen Four in St. Louis when you had the Megan Kellers, you had, I don't think Kayla Barnes is on the team yet, but you had McKenna Newkirk, maybe Katie Bird too, and other players. Yeah, that game, I mean, that was the semifinal game, and they lost to Wisconsin by a goal when a player on Wisconsin finally decided to take a slap shot. They didn't take a slap shot that whole tournament except for Melissa Channel when she shot it with 16 seconds left. And hey, the one slap shot worked. So yeah, Wisconsin went on to the finals in that one. But otherwise, yeah, I haven't seen any BC games. But yeah, they had a lot of players come out of that program. So I mean, they lost a couple players last year, but through transfers. But I guess we'll see what happens with them this year. I would always think they're going to be one of the top teams usually. So.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have BU. Like BU seems like I know a lot of like the hockey writers I've seen on Twitter before. They all seem to be from Boston and seem to have some kind of tie with BU. So I just feel like BU is like a big hotbed. And of course, that's where the Frozen Four was supposed to be this year. And unfortunately, that got canceled. But
yeah,
no shortage of St. Louis references. I actually didn't mention, like, Abby Stanley is on BU, and I actually forgot to mention her in the St. Louis episode. So I'll give a shout out there. But she was one of the last remaining North Dakota players. Like, she was a freshman when the team got dropped, so she got through her freshman year there, and then she went to BU. So yeah, so for me as a St. Louis guy, that's cool. And they won the Beanpot a year ago, not this year, but a year ago. And then you know, they have obviously Jessie Confer has been tearing it up with BU, and we ended up seeing her at the Women's Worlds. As you know, she got rewarded for that for sure.
I think we passed by her and her family, didn't we? Like when we were in downtown Helsinki, we were kind of like me, you, and Ray were just kind of walking around, and I think she was walking around with some teammates and her family. I think we ran into her.
You might have ran
City Road, or was it City Road? I always confuse the two. Like they look nothing alike, but I always confuse those two because they're about similar height and stature. So I always mess that up. I'm like, wait, which one's Sydney Road and which one's Jessie Confer?
Yeah, one's a redhead and the other's blonde, but
okay, yeah, I was way off.
I think it was you guys that kept running into players outside of the arena. So Jessie Confer, I mean, I know I got her autograph, and I actually kind of became good friends with her mom at the tournament. I was talking to her. I was like, hey, how are the Avalanche doing? Because, you know, JT Confer is on the Avalanche and stuff like that. So I talked to her a few times. Oh, and there was that good moment where we were getting autographs after the game, or one of the games, and like there was a little girl, you know, that wanted to get autographs, but she and her mom both forgot Sharpie, and somehow they were both from America and they were in Finland for some reason. I don't know what happened. I don't know what was up with that, but they were only there for that night. So Jessie Confer's mom was looking for people to get to help her out and spot her with a pen or whatever, you know, a Sharpie. So I was like, oh yeah, I can give her a Sharpie. So yeah, that girl got to get autographs and all that stuff. So that was pretty cool of Jessie Confer's mom. But yeah, you know, it was cool. Confer had that great season, so she got rewarded by being on the U.S. team. And there was one point where like they were going I was in that second arena, like, you know, arena 2, where they had that workout room there.
Yeah.
So the U.S. team was like, they were coming out of somewhere and going into the gym. It was like before it was for a pregame workout, and like I was wearing a Minnesota Whitecaps jersey. I was sitting down at a table, and Jessie Confer, like, she was walking from over here and came around, and then like as she was walking on this side of me, walking that way towards the gym, she kind of just looks back at the jersey, because like you get it when you're wearing like NWHL jerseys in Finland, you're gonna get a lot of surprised looks. It's usually actually just by the North American players that are like so shocked to see. They're shocked to see that in America to begin with, right? So imagine seeing it in Finland. And even a Canadian player once had a surprise look. Like Emily Clark was doing her she was doing her like pregame warm-ups, and she saw my Boston Pride jersey. I mean, they did draft her, you know, before the PWHPA came around, and Jessie Confer was like, she looked up while she was stretching, and she was like, her face lit up. I was like, oh wow, she digs seeing a jersey. I mean, she didn't end up playing for the NWHL, but you know, it's still was so interesting. That's what gave me the confidence to get her autograph. Like after Canada lost to Finland in that one game, like because that was their first time ever not playing for a gold medal. So like, but I still had the confidence to get Emily Clark's autograph after the game just because like she seems to have that like kind of personality. So yeah. But I kind of went off on a tangent about non-Boston players, but I didn't go off too much of a tangent. I was still talking about Confront most of the time, but
right.
But yeah, man. So that was cool. And then of course you have Northeastern. They were having a killer year. Like I was either going for like Ohio State or Northeastern because, again, I keep mentioning the St. Louis kids, but maybe this is probably the last one. So Lauren McInnes is on Northeastern, but of course Swiss prodigy Alina Mueller is on Northeastern, and the French prodigy as well, Chloe Erard, is also on Northeastern. So Northeastern has a great team, and I've always liked all the players that came out of Northeastern. Like, Danny Ryland played there, right? She started the NWHL, and then Florence Schelling played at Northeastern as well, a Swiss goalie who's now like the GM of a men's team. So Northeastern is like kind of like that team where like a lot of these like impactful people come out of. Like I don't know, and I just know it was going to happen, like an Ohio State versus Northeastern final with the Frozen Four. I just know it was going to happen, but we didn't quite get there. So I don't know. Have you gotten to see any Northeastern games? I know Ray said he saw I think he said he saw an exhibition game between the Pride and the Northeastern at one point.
Yeah, so we saw oh wow, I can't believe it was that long ago. It was like preseason right before the start of season 4 of the NWHL. So we're looking at mid-September of 2018. The Boston Pride, they were playing an exhibition game against the Northeastern Huskies at Walter Brown Arena at BU. And yeah, it was weird. Oh man, that blows my mind that it was October 2018. Yeah, because that was the last time Gigi Marvin played for the Boston Pride. That's when she returned after like a 1-year hiatus, and she came and played. And it was they had a good season, but like that was the 1 year where they got knocked out. But they had Northeastern, not to go off the rails there, but Northeastern at the time they had a pretty good team. But obviously they're going against an NWHL team, or obviously they're going to get smoked. I mean, you would expect so.
Wait, you said this was 2018?
Yeah, this was like September 2018 to go.
Okay, so this was that last season before the PWHPA formed then, right? So
yeah.
That makes sense, yeah, because Boston would still have a lot of national team players at that point. I mean, like I think Hillary Knight was gone back to the CWHL by then, but they still had a lot of national team players, so yeah. So yeah, I can see them overpowering Northeastern. I'd like to see a game against Northeastern now, though, since the Olympians are off to the PWHPA. I mean, it might be more even now. I don't know, but
I agree.
But yeah, I don't know. I almost want to talk about Quinnipiac real quick, but I almost want to stick with Boston right now. So like, you had the Boston Pride and you had the Boston Blades, and like the Boston Blades were the big powerhouse team before the NWHL came, as we know, and then there was a mass exodus to the Boston Pride, and then the Boston Blades just never recovered from that, man. They never, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of hockey in Boston. You see all these college teams in Boston, and it's like, how do players not want to go to the Blades as well? And then, of course, the Blades relocated to Worcester, and I thought their jerseys were pretty great when they moved to Worcester. But I don't know. Do you know why the Blades never recovered from the NWHL mass exodus? Like, do you have any ideas?
I don't know. I can't per se why. I think it's just because, it's just a theory of mine. I can't really substantiate this. My theory is just like a lot of the Olympians, once they made their mass exodus and just exiled themselves towards going, I shouldn't say exiled, but once they departed and went to the Pride, I believe the Blades, they just lost all legitimacy. Like nobody wanted to sign for them. So they're like, I mean, you can't really fault them. I mean, the CWHL at the time, they weren't paying players. Players were just paying for their own travel, their airfare, whatnot. Right. I mean, they didn't have health insurance to them. I think it was just a reputation. It's just staying the reputation. It's like, oh, how do you have like this mass exodus of people leaving this franchise? Like there must be something wrong. I mean, it's just human psychology. Like when you see a bunch of people leaving one place, like, oh, whether it's fair or not, whether it's accurate or not, nobody wants to join that team. Like, oh, it can't be a great situation. So many people leaving all at once. It's kind of a red flag, right? I mean, like that's like not to compare apples and oranges, like let's say if you see this one company, let's say you see a unnamed Fortune 500 company, like, oh great, like a big powerhouse company in the corporate world, right? But all of a sudden within a year you see so much turnover, you see like 20 people leave within a week. You're like, okay, you may not know the full story, there's always two sides of the story, but you start scratching your head, you start asking yourself questions like, what's going on here? Like, what's the reason why so many people are leaving? Like, there has to be something bad there has to be some type of cultural issue, like it might be a climate issue. Like, I mean, from an outside perspective, if I'm a prospective hockey player, right, and you see all these Olympians, all these like, highly touted players like leaving, would you really want to go to that situation? I mean, I don't know. I can't really speak for them. I'm just using basic human psychology and just using like, what I see and the information that I have in front of me.
Yeah, and I mean, well, the mass exodus happened just because there was a new opportunity, but I guess, yeah, the idea of like you just never recovered, like even with all the good players coming out of all these Northeastern teams, like the Blades just couldn't put something together. And yeah, that could be because like players realized they weren't going to get the chance to play with like Hillary Knight and see how she does, or they weren't going to get a chance to play with the national team players. The only player that stayed behind was Tara Watchorn, who's a Canadian gold medalist. And I actually respected her because of that. I was like, it reminded me of like, like when you were a kid, if you ever had a situation where like all your friends just left you and you were all alone, like that's just what I feel like Tara Watchorn was. So I like. She was
a BU girl, I think.
Yeah, she's a BU girl, and she actually is on the assistant coaching staff now. And yeah, so it's just like she's Canadian, but she's hanging out in the good old Boston. So yeah, that's what gives me another reason to like BU besides just any St. Louis girls on the team.
Speaking of Tara Watchorn, when I went to that exhibition game between the Boston Pride and the Northeastern Huskies in September 2018, if you go to Walter Brown Arena, they have like posters of like their like most famous female alumni that played at their female Terriers. Besides Marie-Philippe Lalonde, Tara Watchorn's right next to her.
Yeah.
Plaque's right there, so.
This was the Pride versus BU game?
It was the Pride versus the Northeastern game.
But were they playing? Oh, he froze.
Arena, there's like a giant, like a Hall of Fame section. Like there's like a plaque of Marie-Philippe Lalonde, and then right next to it is Tara Watchorn.
Okay, so you did freeze for a second, but so they played Northeastern, but it was at BU or something?
Yeah,
okay.
They played. It was weird. I don't know why that was.
I mean, it's in Boston. I guess you consider the Pride the whole home team in that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Watchorn, yeah, and then I think Jennifer Wakefield went there too, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, BU had a lot of good Canadian players come out of there, and yeah, I think Sarah Davis went there too. I remember that because Sammy Davis, I thought they were sisters, but they're not related. But I think Sarah Davis went there. Sarah Davis was at the Women's Worlds in 2017, and like I mentioned Sarah Davis to some guy because like her mom and her aunt were like hanging out. So the guy ran over to them and like said something, and the mom and aunt or something came back and they said, "Oh, I heard you were a big Sarah Davis fan." And it's just because I mentioned her name, it's like, oh yeah, I know who she is. And I actually had a Calgary Inferno jersey on because Sarah Davis was on that team. So I pulled up the jersey and showed the Inferno shirt. I didn't have a jersey. I had an Inferno shirt, and I was wearing my I think it was my Shy Dark Whale jersey. I don't know, something like that.
It's weird. It's weird because like Sammy Davis, like when I was looking into her profile, it said that she was from like Pembroke, Mass, and my coworker Mike Davis lives in Pembroke, Mass. I'm like, so I was curious, like, wait, same last name, same hometown. So I went and asked him the next day. I'm like, hey, any relation to Sammy Davis from BU? Like she's just like this college standout from BU, and he's like, no, Davis is a pretty common name in that area, but he's like, I wish I was related to her. That I wish I had an athletic bone in my body. He said.
Yeah, man, just like with me and Brienne McLaughlin, like we're not related, but yeah, man, I would take like any athletic genes, I guess. I mean, I'm probably a good athlete for what I am, but not like that level.
Speaking of Brienne, she still lives in Pittsburgh, I believe, because I remember she was there when we went to the.
Yeah, I knew she would be there for that reason, but I didn't realize she'd be the goalie coach for USA as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, like my cousin was at that. She was there too, and my cousin, she was like sitting next to Brienne McLaughlin one of the games, and she said she joked with Brienne. She was like, oh yeah, you know, we should be related or something like that, you know. So yeah. And of course I had Bree Mac sign my Buttes jersey of her, so yeah. But yeah, just yeah, this is the episode of going off on fun tangents. But yeah, man. So we did cover Northeastern, BU, and Boston College. So I mean, we could go on for a long time with these Northeastern. I mean, yeah, with these Northeastern teams, like you got Providence, and then if you go like you got New Hampshire, like UNH. I'm trying to learn about more, like I said in the draft episode, because a lot of UNH players were drafted in the NWHL. So yeah, you know, that's the team I want to learn more about, and I guess Yale as well, and in Maine. So that's just like it always starts. My interest gets piqued by the NWHL. If they like sign somebody or draft somebody, then I'm always interested in like where they came from and stuff. I guess let's just jump to Connecticut real quick, because you know you have the Connecticut Whale and you have Quinnipiac, and a lot of times like you'll see a Quinnipiac player will get drafted by the Whale and sign with the Whale, and oftentimes they'll just go somewhere else the next season. Like that happened with a lot of players like Trevino and Scarupa. Who was that goalie? Sydney Rossman. She went to Minnesota. And the only like opposite effect was like when Samo just.
I was pretty happy about that. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was pretty awesome. I was stoked when Samo signed.
Samo signed with the Whale, and you know, I just think you would think like because she was a national team player, she'd stay with the PWHPA. But again, like you know, obviously you can see how that makes sense for her because she's from Connecticut. I guess she went to Quinnipiac, so, and you know she did try out the SDHL last year, but she didn't stay. So she came back and went and played with the PWHPA. So I guess I don't know. I just must just be a fit for her or whatever. So and a lot of NWHL fans are excited about it. You know.
Welcome to the Connecticut Whale, Melissa Samoskevich. I was pretty happy. She's pretty cool in my book.
Yeah, I know. And to throw in another St. Louis Tide player, like Taylor Gerard plays for the Quinnipiac Bobcats right now. She was at Lindenwood at first, so I hope she plays for the Whale eventually too. And Nicole Guagliardo, she played for Lindenwood, and she got drafted by the Whale, so I don't know. But yeah, Quinnipiac is I always love their jerseys too, and I love their Sunrise logo where the Bobcats like has its cat, it's a leg or whatever it's called, like sticking out like that or whatever. Like that's the other Northeastern team I like is Quinnipiac, just because you know you can correlate them with the Whale or whatever. Like you know you can hope that they'll sign with the Whale. What's interesting though is like the Whale is also like the other team that players try to leave and they try to go to Boston or something like that, you know. And so like you had one team like that for the NWHL and one team like that in the CWHL with the Blades, and it's just like it's kind of weird. Like there's a philosophy I kind of realized, and I came up with this when Nina Rogers she jumped ship. She was about to be drafted by the Worcester Blades first overall, and then she just jumped ship and went to the Whale to avoid being drafted by the Blades, or I don't know. I guess she just felt like going to the Whale. And Rogers I think played somewhere in Boston, but what that made me think was like, you know, it's not you can't have the Pride and the Blades at the same time, but I think you can't have the Blades and the Whale at the same time, because that's like two teams that nobody wants to play or people don't tend to sign with. So it's like, I don't know. It's very strange, but you know, I just kind of like want to see all the teams be like desirable. Like I want to see all the teams be like on the even playing field, and I hope the Whale do good. You know, they signed Abby Ives. Abby Ives played with the Bobcats, so hopefully the Whale have that good goaltending and they have a better team this year that can compete with the rest of the league. So yeah.
Well, I can definitely corroborate that story that the Worcester Blades are perennial bottom dwellers. Like there were a couple of times in October 2018. Like I think I went to like 3 games. I only went to those 3 games to watch the Worcester Blades because the Calgary Inferno were in town.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I wanted to catch up with Brianna Decker and Casey Bellamy. And let's put it this way. The Blades lost by an average score of double figures each time. Like I think one game was like 10-0.
Yeah.
One game was 14-2. Another game was 11-1. Yeah, it was a one-sided butt kicking, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and how many national team players does Calgary Inferno have in between USA and Canada. I know they also had Ben Lahovey on the team, so yeah.
I'd say they had like at least 9 or 10 alone.
Yeah. And they had those bubble players too that didn't quite make the national teams, like Haley Krasaniak. So yeah, it's just like you have the national team players, and then you have those next players down that barely didn't make the team. Like, so yeah, no surprise that they won the the Clarkson Cup that year, that game that you guys were all at. So yeah.
I was kind of joking with Ray. I mean, when we were in Toronto, the Coca-Cola Coliseum, they literally had no one guarding the Clarkson Cup. It was near the hockey runway, like during the exit to go to the concession stands. They literally just left it right there in the middle of the freaking corridor. And I was joking with Ray. I'm like, really? They don't even have security guarding this cup? Like, if I really wanted to, I not to say I would do this. Like,
right.
if I was a disreputable man, I would just take that cup and say, wow, that looks good in my bathroom. I can make a fountain out of this. I could just take it right there. It was just right there in the open. No one was guarding this. I'm like, is anyone seeing what I'm seeing? No one's watching this cup. Like, what are they going to hoist when they crown the winner? It was just funny. I thought it was just a surreal moment.
That is crazy. Yeah, I've never heard of that ever in sports, but I guess the women's hockey crowd is expected to be, like, they have a reputation of just being a nice crowd, you know, not counting, like, the guys that disrupted the Pittsburgh joint training camp, like that guy with the bundle of sticks trying to get autographs to sell them on eBay, you know.
Yeah.
I never saw the guy, but, you know, we heard the stories like, you know, like they chased players back to the hotel room, right? Or back to the hotel. The hotel was in the same parking lot. So the guy, as I was told, he was chasing players back, and then security like went after him, and security was like get a job or something like that. And the guy was like, this is my effing job, you know. And that's the conclusion I came to of why like security was so uptight when we first got there. And then they lightened up as the week went on. But yeah. And then my cousin even talked about it. She was like, oh yeah, man, I heard there were some people hassling the players or whatever. And, you know, and I don't know, it was just an all around crazy. I mean, it was just an interesting week, you know. That week was something else. It
was awkward because we were dubbing them like monikers, Slick Back Jack and Malibu Ken. Ken was my favorite. Like his name was Kenny, but you call him Malibu Ken because he was like pocket full of sunshine. It was just awkward to interact with them. I'm like, they're treating us like we were like miscreants, like we were peasants. Like, oh, we're not doing anything, man. Like, these players are approaching us. Like, they clearly see we're not a threat. We're like, they're receptive to us. We're not ogling them. We're not entering their personal space. I'm like, man, like, I can't help it if Casey comes and gives me a hug. Like, what do you want me to do? I didn't initiate this. Like, I was just trying to give her a high five, and she gives me a hug. Like, what do you want me to do, dude? Push her away off of me?
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously the players know you guys from other events, but I mean, again, I just blame you got to blame the bundle of sticks guy for causing that. You know, he made them uptight. So yeah, it's just like, and security was like as if it was like an NHL game or something, like as if like Crosby would have been there. You know, that's how security seemed like it was. But
I get it. I mean,
it was still
I get it. They're in a tough position. Like I get it, but I don't get it. But you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't tell any of you this yet, but like after like the whole tournament was over, like as I was walking out the door to go to my car to go home, like Malibu Ken saw one of the trainers and like they hugged each other, and Malibu was like, "Oh, you guys were awesome. You guys can come back," or something like that. You know, it was like a heartwarming moment. But I didn't. The easy thing would be to say like to call Malibu Ken a hypocrite there, but you know, I think it was.
He said it to you? He said
no. He said it to a trainer. It was like a USA staff trainer, and like. And they were like, they must have got to know each other. Like, he just gives her a hug, and he's like, "Oh, come back again. All right, we'll be here." You know, it was a nice little moment, but you know, it's easy to say like, you could call Malibu Ken a hypocrite there, but you know, I think it really was just because of the bundle of sticks guy at the beginning of the week. He caught, and I heard there was other hecklers too, but yeah, they caused them to be like they were the problem the whole time. They caused the security to be uptight, and security lightened up throughout the weekend. You know, it just once they met the real women's hockey fans, like. Security lightened up. So yeah, that's it was an interesting week though. Like we'll never have a week like that again, because there's not going to be like a joint training camp like that again, I guess. I don't know, it was very strange, but
it was weird, dude.
But it was cool. Like Pittsburgh was only like 9 or 10 hours away from me, so I that's reasonable driving distance for me with all the traveling work I've done. So yeah, it was interesting, but yeah.